So the first thing when you open After Effects is you see this screen right here. You can see your old projects, the ones you already did or started, and if you want to edit a new project, you can click on New Project or just click that whole thing away. Then you will see this screen right here. You click on New Composition to start a new edit, new composition. Then you can name your composition how you want it to be named. For example, I just name it tutorial because this is the tutorial I'm filming. You can give it the name of the ship you're editing or the character or the song you edit. Then I'll change the format of the edit. That depends on what videos or what pictures you use or how you want to edit. I'll make it a square because that's what fits best for the pictures I'm going to edit today. Another thing is the duration. I always change that because if you have a song, for example, or a sound is 30 seconds long, you make it 30 seconds. If it's longer or shorter, you can make this as long as your song is, or how long you want your edit to be. And then you can change the background color. I always choose black because in some transitions you see the background, and I personally like it when it's black, so I always choose black. But if you want to make a soft edit, sometimes it's very cool to add a different color, so you can choose a different color for your background. If you're done with your settings, you just click OK, and then you have this screen right here. This shows you your composition. And this is the resolution, and it's on full right now, but I'll change it to quarter because while you're editing, you can watch a preview of what you just did, and it takes a very long time for After Effects to load this preview when you have your resolution on full. And it gets easier for After Effects if you change it to quarter or half or third. What's best for you? I always make it quarter. But this has no impact on the edit at the end. It's just the resolution we see while we're editing and not of the edit in the end. On the left side, you can see your project. You're probably wondering what all those panels on the right side mean. There you can see different panels, for example, effects and presets, and in there you can find all your effects, all the effects After Effects gives you, and you just type in the effect you want, and it will show you the effect. You have preview, where you can start the preview so you can watch what you just edited. Then you have information about your audio, information in general, and there are also other panels, but those are not important right now, and I'll explain them to you in another video when we need them. On the right side we have our timeline with our blue time indicator, and on the timeline you can see how long your composition, your edit is. What we do now, we need our pictures or our videos, what we want in our edit, to be in there, so I'll import them. To do that, I click on File, then Import, and then File again. Then it will allow me to open every picture or video I have on my laptop. You can choose one by one or two at the same time. I choose one by one. And then you have them in your project, but as you can see, they're still not in your composition. It's still the black square right here. So what we do is we drag them down, and then we have them in our composition. Here's the first one, and as you can see, it has the same length than our composition has. If you edit with pictures and you import them, they'll always have the same length as your composition. The videos have its own duration. Now we want to change the duration of our clips. And to do that, we hold at the end or at the start of our clip and drag it to the left or to the right to make it longer or shorter. And then it changes the duration. Normally there are 2 little arrows, but you can't see them because my recording program just cut them off. But normally you see 2 little arrows at the end or at the start. Another opportunity to split your clip is that you place your time indicator where you want the clip to split, and then you press Command Shift and D on your keyboard, and then it will split your clip. To undo that or to undo anything you did on After Effects, you just press Command and C on your keyboard. To move the whole layer and not just change the duration, you can hold your layer in the middle or some point just on your layer and then drag it also to the left or to the right where you want your layer to be. Now I have my pictures ready. We can see now that our picture doesn't really fit our square, and that's because the picture just had a different format, but we can change that. And for that we need to zoom our picture a little bit. So we go to our layer, select our layer. Then we click down the layer and it will show us transform. We click down transform and then we can see different things like anchor point, position, scale, rotation and opacity. These things are what you need to make basic transitions in After Effects. These are just the basics. What we need now to make our picture fit our square, we need scale. So we click on scale and then we hold the number. If we drag it to the right, it zooms in, and if we drag it to the left, it zooms out. We can also click on it and type in the size we want it to have, but since we don't really know what that is, I'm going to drag it to the right till it fits. The same thing for the second picture. And when we are done with that, we want to save new settings in the layer. So we click on the layer, right click, and then go to Pre-Compose. And then we click here and click OK. And now we have the settings saved in here. We are going to do the same thing for the second picture. And if we check, we can click down the layer and transform again, and we can see scale is at 100 again. But now our picture fits our square. So now we are ready to do our first transition. The first transition we want to do is a zoom out. A zoom out is a very basic transition, but I think it always looks good. So we drag our time indicator to where we want our transition to start. This can be at the beginning of the clip, but since our clip is very long, I'll place it somewhere else. Then we click down our layer, transform, and we go to scale. We click on a little stopwatch to place a keyframe where our time indicator is. Then we drag it to the end of our clip, and then we change the scale to what we wanted. We want to do a zoom out, so we want our picture to zoom out. Then we highlight those keyframes, right click on them, go to Keyframe Assistant and then Easy Ease. You click that and now comes one of the most important things about editing, and this is the graph editor. You click on the graph editor and you see this graph. You click on it and then you see the yellow things, I don't know. And now we want our transition to start very slow but to end fast. So we drag these yellow things to the right, and now we can see our transition starts very slow and then it gets really fast. This is the graph you always use for the first part of your transition because it starts slow, it ends fast, and it makes your transition look very smooth. We click on the graph editor again to click this away. But as we can see, we have a black background when it zooms out, so we add an effect. You type in motion tile, and then you add motion tile, you drag it down to your layer and place it on your layer, and then you change the things I'm changing to about 250. You can also change it to 300. Then you click on mirror edges to create a mirror effect. You also click on the little boxes I'm clicking on, because this adds motion blur and it makes your transition a lot smoother. Also, you can start a preview by clicking on play in the preview panel, but you can also click on your spacebar to start the preview. So now the first part of our transition is done. We go on to the second part. Now we place our time indicator where we want our transition to end. We click the layer down, click down transform and go to scale and click on the stopwatch so it creates a keyframe where our transition ends with 100% scale. Then we make our picture bigger, so we drag the scale to the right so the zoom out continues. Again, we highlight them, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease, and then we go to the graph editor. Click on the graph, and now we do the opposite of what we just did. We drag both things to the left, so now it starts very fast and ends slow, and this is important because our transition already started. It started slow, then it continued fast, so we want to continue fast to end slow again, so it looks smooth in the end. And now we are done with our first transition. For our next transition, we want to do a rotation. So we select the layer again, click it down, click on rotation. As you can see, if you change the number, it rotates. So we place our time indicator where we want our transition to start again. Click on the stopwatch at rotation to create a keyframe. Drag our time indicator to the end. And then we change the number. You don't have to choose 85, you can also choose 90 or 75. You highlight them, keyframe assistant, easy ease, and go to the graph editor. Now you do the same graph as we just did with the zoom out at the first part. We drag both yellow things to the right, and we're done with our graph. We always want to transition to start slow, continue fast again, and end slow again. So we always do the same graphs when we want to do basic transitions. We add motion tile again because we see a black background. Then we add motion blur again to make it look smoother. And we are done with the first part of our transition. We place our time indicator where we want the transition to end again. Click the layer down to rotation. Click on the stopwatch, place a keyframe where the transition ends. Go to the start. And now we change the number so the picture rotates in a different direction. This is important so it rotates in the same direction in the end. Highlight the keyframes, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Go to the graph editor and now drag both things to the left so it continues fast and ends slow. Motion tile again because we don't want to have our black background. And then we also add motion blur. And as you can see, you just did your first rotation. The next transition is going to be a slide. We almost do the same things with graphs and keyframes. So we click down a layer, and first I will be showing you what you can change with position. You can move your picture to the left, to the right, or up and down. So place the time indicator where the transition should start. We want to do a slide to the right. So now we change the first number. You click on Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, the graph editor, and now do the graph as we always do it for the first part of our transition. We add motion tile again because we have the black background. Motion blur. Place your time indicator where you want the transition to end. And now drag it to the beginning and then move your picture to the left. This is important so it still moves to the right, even though it started on the left side. Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, Graph Editor, and then make your graph. We need to add motion tile. And then we're already done with our slide. You could have done a slide up or down or to the left side. It's always the same thing with placing keyframes and doing graphs. You just have to change the numbers. For the next transition, we are going to change the opacity. So we place our time indicator where we wanted our transition to start. Now I'm really tired of saying the same thing all over again. I think you got it. Then we drag it to the end and change opacity. I'll make it about 10%. You can make it 50% or 0%, how you want it to look. Highlight them. Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. And then for opacity, I never do graphs because I feel like a transition where you change the opacity always looks smooth, even without graphs. So I don't do them. You can do them, you know how you have to do graphs in a transition, but I don't do them for this. So now I'm doing the exact same thing I did with any other transition, just that I'm doing it now with opacity. The keyframe thing, the graph thing, it's always the same. And as you can see, it still looks smooth even without graphs. You can change the graph if you want to, but I think you don't need it for opacity. So now we're already done. I hope this video helped you to understand After Effects better. After Effects can be very scary, but I promise you, once you get into it, it gets easier and you will understand more and more. Also comment if you have some ideas for future videos or if you want a specific tutorial. Check out my Instagram for what I added in general and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye!